Hey. Welcome to the first 2024 Jail Oversight Board meeting. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Susan Ivashevic DeLucenti. I'm the newly elected President Judge of the 5th Judicial District. I have appointed Judge Kelly Bigley as the second Court of Common Pleas judge to be on the board. I guess I'll just take roll call. County Executive Sarah Innamorato.
Here.
County Controller Corey O'Connor.
Here.
Council Member Bethany Hallam.
Here.
Sheriff Kraus.
Here.
Judge Bigley. Here. Okay, and there's 3 citizens. I don't have their names, but they're obviously not here. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to announce that we're going to go into executive session first, and we are going into executive session for the specific purpose of discussing pending litigation, the case of Radke versus the Jail Oversight Board. We anticipate that this will be about 10 minutes only, so we will be right back, everybody. And Mr. Backrack, thank you.
We're gonna do this.
Was that 10 minutes or was it longer? Okay. We are going to move on to the community corrections reports, passages to recovery.
Good evening. Happy New Year.
Hi.
As of the report date, we had 45 active clients, 13 new residents. We have 4 people that were employed. As of current today, we have 38 county residents and 7 employed. We have no COVID issues or no non-fatal overdoses.
Any questions?
I'm sorry, my name as well. Gregory Gregory Price, GREGORYPRICE.
Thank you so much, Gregory. I do have one question. At the last meeting, I had asked what is a reason someone would be medically returned to the jail, and you said you were going to look into that and get back to me. Did you get an answer for that?
Right, so I actually misspoke last meeting, and I apologize for that. So I don't really have anything to really present to that, because it's not really a thing called a medical return.
I'm sorry, it's not
It's
really.
not a thing called a medical return. So I was me misspeaking, I apologize.
Okay, so what was that number then? What was it actually supposed to be?
It was two, it was like a. It
was 2, yeah.
Yeah, it was 2, right.
So what was that number, not medical returns to the jail?
That I don't know, I can look into that number. I don't know what that number was, but I do apologize.
I'm sorry, are you saying that you reported that there were 2 medical returns last month?
Correct.
But this month you're saying there's no such thing as a medical return?
Correct. I actually misspoke. So we did have, if there would be a medical revocation, the medical revocation would be where we couldn't assist anybody in the actual program, and we may have to return them to the jail for them to get assistance and possibly get them back to the program.
For a medical reason?
Correct.
So they were returned to the jail for a medical reason?
I'm not saying they were. I'm saying that would be considered a medical return.
Okay, and can you give me an example of what those medical reasons could be that they would be better served in the jail?
It could be medication noncompliance. It could be mental health, unstable, things of that nature.
Okay, and who determines that? Is that the staff at Passages that
It would
determines
be.
that?
It would be in correlation with the jail as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anything else?
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The Renewal Center. And if everybody who comes to the microphone would please state their full name and spell their last name.
Good afternoon. Happy New Year, everybody. Darren Hood, Hood, last name. First name Darren, Darren, with Renewal Incorporated, Director of Reentry Services. Our program numbers in our work release for past 30 days was 67. We had 10 inpatient, giving us a total of 77. Our employment percentage was at 70%. Our average wage rate was $15.70. Our releases, we had 40 reentrants exited the program, 21 successful, 16 escapes, 7 program revocations. Some were returned or pulled out by court, some returned for behavioral issues. As of January 2nd, 2024, Renewal is accepting reentrants from the Allegheny County Jail who are in the methadone program, and we're working with Tedesco for medications. We don't have anybody currently that's on medication, methadone, but there's somebody I believe in the works. It's maybe 2 weeks out or a little better. And we have a lot of great community service opportunities for Renewal reentrants coming up in the new year, and that's to be announced.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Ms. Hallam?
Thank you very much. So at the last meeting, I had asked if Renewal agreed that the Department of Justice mandate regarding medication for opioid use disorders applies to you as well as the Allegheny County Jail, and I was told that you were going to look into that and check with legal and see if you were going to be following that mandate as well.
I forwarded, I didn't get anything back yet on that as far as a final answer, so I'll follow up on that and have an answer next
Next meeting? Okay. And then I have a couple other questions as well. I didn't hear any mention, have there been any deaths since the last meeting?
There has not.
Have there been any overdoses?
Fortunately, there has not.
Okay, that is great news. And then another thing I want to say is, we table outside the jail every Tuesday, and almost every single Tuesday, there are fire trucks or ambulances coming to renewal. And it's literally a 3-hour time window every Tuesday. I'm just wondering, is that a very frequent occurrence? Does it just happen to be on Tuesdays between 5 and 8?
I'll let Ms. Latore talk about that. She works in that building, and she would probably give a more accurate answer for that occurrence.
Yeah, I would love to hear about it. Thank you.
Hi, Elena DeTore. I'm the Director of Clinical Services with Renewal, DETTORE. I had some other things to report on, but just with, we did have an issue with false fire alarms, the reentrants pulling the fire alarms, whether it be to go outside and get contraband or, different things. And we were having a problem with that for an extensive period at a time. I would say, though, over the last several weeks, I would be surprised to hear that it's as common because it's virtually, they've stopped pulling them as far as the inpatient programs. And I think that we credit that to more searches, staff being, more in depth with searching and work with the Allegheny County Fire Marshal and just having our incentive behavioral program on the units just to give them something more positive to work towards. And I think that's improved it greatly.
Okay, yeah, I can't speak for this week because we had our swearing in this weekend, so I wasn't there, but definitely the past 2 Tuesdays, there were fire trucks and ambulances there between 5 and 8.
Gotcha.
But I guess my other question is, has there been any hospital runs? Like, has anybody been taken by ambulance in the past month?
No, not that I can think of. There's people that have gone on, from the work release program maybe to the hospital, but no, nothing that in the inpatient programs being taken.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anybody else have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Electronic monitoring.
Evening, Board. Steve Eswine, ESSWEIN for the probation office. So at the end of this reporting period, we had 617 individuals enrolled in the program. During that time, 108 were successfully completed and 6 were returned for violations. So, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We are going to move on now to public comments. I would ask everybody to please be respectful while someone is speaking. There is a limit of 3 minutes, and I'm going to set a 3-minute timer on my phone, so it will go off when the 3 minutes is up. First, we have, and forgive me, my writing is horrible, so I can't say a word about anybody else's writing, but I believe it's Marion Damick.
Yeah, right,
Thank you.
okay.
Hold on.
What's he feeling? What am I feeling? Oh, thank you. Okay,
Okay,
Damick,
I'm not going to start your timer until
can you
you're
hear?
ready.
Damick,
Yes.
D-A-M-I-C-K. Have 2 problems issue that I have in any. One is juveniles. The Oversight Board is in charge, as we are, of the regular jail, but also of Schumann. You know what's happened to Schumann because, frankly, they never reported here. You never asked them to report here. They're never required to report here, and they should be required to report here. You should insist that somebody from Schumann, if we get Schumann back, will report what's going on. Meanwhile, you've got 22 young men and 1 woman. You did have a dog for the males. I gather right now, as we understand, you're in between dogs, so to speak. That does not mean that 1 female, what does she have? A pussycat? What's... She doesn't have anything. You know, here she is. Well, you can imagine. The young youth, they've got the dog, they've got each other. She has zilch. That should be changed. Something should be corrected. It's not it's up to the Oversight Board to decide what to do and to do it ASAP. Okay, that's one problem. Another problem is a very serious problem for the whole county. You've got to get a new jail. I think it's no definite time that you have to start figuring out you're a county jail. You're not a Pittsburgh jail. You have the whole county to put a jail in or build a jail. You have to start at some time. This is the year to start getting funds to build another jail that will follow the law of getting people outside, all the other laws that so far you're offending. Because of the size of the jail, the location of the jail, I know when it started because I was involved in it. We didn't have the highway next to it, but that's beside. You need a better jail. You need a jail that is legal. And I think this is a good year to start for it. We have a new director. I'm delighted also to see that the county executive has shown up. I hope to see her at every meeting. And like what we've had before, I will not comment, which I just did. But that's really, there's also just a comment, and I probably not say I do agree with this, but there was a little article in the Pittsburgh paper. Just that little. I saw it. It was December 14th, PPG. It did say about administrative. They were delighted that you were coming in, but problem, yes. They felt it was going to be very difficult for you, and I agree, to establish, I'm quoting, a clear chain of accountability for Allegheny County that includes but does not depend on the fractious and grandstanding jail oversight board. That isn't an effect you want to have on the community. I hope to see that change. It's embarrassment, and I know it shouldn't be, and you're the ones who can take care of that. But let's get something for the juveniles and start thinking how you're going to raise the money. It's going to come from me and all of us right here. It's going to come from us. We need a new jail, ASAP.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I would like to tell you that I believe that it is in discussions with the county executive that there are discussions about having a new juvenile detention center be under this board or its own oversight board. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that is in the works, okay? And I'm also hoping that this board, we're off to a new start with a lot of new members, and I think it's going to be a new day.
I hope so.
Okay.
We all can hope for the new year. We will start on another plan and really succeed with some good results for the jail.
Okay,
We
thank
deserve
you.
it. Oh, by the way, just quick. Look at how many people are absent in your medical. You've got 90 full time. And these are people who aren't there. Mostly, look, registered nurse. You're missing.
They're working on all the hiring, ma'am.
You're missing 13 registered nurses. That's vital.
That is being worked on. Everybody understands that that is a desperate need. I promise you. And
I'm sure that the director, you realize that too.
yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Brian Englert.
Happy New Year to the board and everybody in attendance. My name is Brian Englert, E-N-G-L-E-R-T. I'm president of the Correctional Officers Union at the jail. I'm here on day 46 of my suspension for summary trespass. You know, we talk about the need for a new jail, but we don't really need a new jail. We need new leadership. What's the point of getting a new coach if you have the same playbook? You're not winning. I mean, email is something that every government and business uses to communicate and run. Jail administrators refuse to use it when communicating with the union at all. I had hoped, now that Warden Harper's reign ended, Acting Warden Dady would step up and work with the union, but he's still following the same marching orders from Rich Fitzgerald and Steve Pilarski. Taxpayer dollars are paying over $240,000 a year to the State Department of Corrections to have an acting warden. Yet, we have no communication with the union. None. I'm not even allowed in the building to represent my people while I'm suspended. So just to let you know, my first unfair labor practice was because I tweeted about officer safety. They disciplined me. I took you to court. I won. My next unfair labor practice was using company email, county email, to talk about officer safety. Took you to court again and won. We have another unfair labor practice already decided where the work was subcontracted out to the sergeants union. We won. They appealed. We're going to win again. We have another unfair labor practice about me being suspended without anybody at that end of the desk or this end of the desk being able to tell me why I was suspended. I didn't violate any law. That's another unfair labor practice. I'm so tired of beating Allegheny County in court that I now bring a pillow to these hearings. That's how tired I am. And it's a waste of taxpayer dollars. It's an absolute waste. You know, things aren't changing between the warden all the way down to his majors. None of the majors were ever even a sergeant. They went right from officer to captain. How? I mean, none of these majors ever had more than 500 hours of overtime in their last 5 years as an officer. This is how out of sync the jail is from the leadership at the top down. They don't understand how it works. Building a new building is just like getting a new coach for a football team. If you're going to still play with the same old players and the same playbook, you're going to lose. And you're paying a lot of money if you're going to lose this way. You're paying a lot of money. We can't even get the solicitor's office to give us dates for arbitration. They refuse to answer subpoenas to provide evidence that we need to make our case. Our contract has been dismissed for years. This is my last year as president before I run again. We're not doing that this year. We can't go on strike, and that's why the county and this administration walks all over our contract. We're not allowed to go on strike. But you know what we're allowed to do? Not do things that we are not contracted for. We are not contracted, nor did we get bargained with to pass out these tablets. We were not bargained with to write the inmates up when they break the tablet. So guess what we'll do? We won't pass the tablets. We won't pass the tablets. You can have one of the 35 sergeants pass these tablets. When you had 24 sergeants, you had no overtime. Now you have 35 sergeants with $500,000 in overtime? Why? We will no longer pass these tablets, and I'll take the hit. You can suspend me for insubordination. Like my inmates say, big room, little room, I could do this time standing on my head. I can sit out of work and win another arbitration because we're not going to pass these tablets if you don't start honoring our contract. We didn't bargain to do the work.
Okay, thank you. Daryl Palmer Jr. I'm sorry.
Hello, my name is Darrell Palmer Jr. I'm here today to talk about my experience in the ACJ. From March 2021 to November 2022, and also August until October 2023, I was incarcerated there. I was approved outside and inside the ACJ for a hernia surgery that I had never received. During my first stay in the ACJ, I was scheduled 3 times for the surgeries, but no results every last time. The only legitimate justification I got for me not being able to receive the surgery under their care was that I had COVID one of the times I was scheduled. What about the other 2? No explanation. I also had doctor's orders and was approved for a non-solid, high-fiber diet, and since the diet was not followed while I was in the care of the ACJ, I had to get my gallbladder partially collapsed due to digestive issues. Upon my return to the ACJ, I was denied the non-solid high-fiber diet again numerous times and the hernia surgery also. The reason to deny the surgery this time was that I had surgery scheduled 3 times in the past and I made it to none of them. How is that my fault? I had to refuse 21 out of 24 trays, which was really 27 out of 30 trays, but it took not eating 6 trays just to get their attention, and also 16 grievances to get ACJ staffing to even consider my request for my basic human needs. Then when the diet finally was approved, it was not followed 80% of the time. People had to give me food off of their trays just for me to survive, or else I would not have survived. For example, one of the many occasions I talked to a captain about what I just explained. I told him that I could not eat breakfast or lunch because I could not digest it, and he told me to try again at dinner. I said, what about breakfast and lunch? He just laughed and said he wasn't here at breakfast and lunch and asked me why didn't I look him in the eyes the whole time we spoke. I wanted to tell him that I was autistic, but what would that have solved? That day at dinner, I had applesauce, just applesauce, and considered that the good tray because at least it was edible for me. I lost 45 pounds in my 60-day stay in the ACJ. The surgery was, of course, scheduled again, but again, of course, I never made it to get this surgery. I just don't understand how the ACJ treats basic human needs and rights as issues of entitlement or undeserving privileges. I could have died due to their negligence. My first extended stay, my gallbladder already was exploding and was leaking septum into my intestinal tract. The pain in my stomach was unbearable more often than not, and what was even more painful is that my whole human existence was undermined and I was constantly ridiculed while suffering. No one should have to go through that. Even animals are treated with higher regard than that, and I feel like so much needs to change about special diets, religious diets, which I was denied also, and the process of handling all medical issues. One last thing. So, I want to know, with the new Jail Oversight Board and new administration, what new is going to happen to improve meeting the special dietary needs and obviously the whole medical situation in the jail?
Well, first, I would like to ask the jail for our next meeting, could we please be advised as to the status of this scheduled surgery and exactly what happened? And also, I frankly am brand new to this board, so I'm not sure what kind of accommodations the jail makes for dietary needs. I just don't know. I can't answer the question. I'm going to ask the jail if the jail could let the board know, just so we have a general idea.
Pending litigation.
my surgery?
Is there any pending litigation? You're not suing?
Not at this moment.
Pardon me?
Not at this moment.
Okay, so, Mr. Palmer, we're going to ask the jail to get back to us and report to us at the next meeting your specific questions about dietary needs and also about specifically your surgery, okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Tanisha Long or Lang? Long. Nobody is listening to my timer.
I think his was an important narrative, though. So we'll give it a pass.
Go ahead.
Tanisha Long, L-O-N-G. On his way out, Rich Fitzgerald left us with one more death in the last 2 weeks. No one has addressed this death at the jail. There are rumors that it was a suicide. But this is an ongoing and persistent problem where our loved ones are going into the jail and they are not leaving, or if they're leaving, they're not leaving the same. My hope is that with this newer board, these are problems we can actually start to solve. I am actually heartened to see the county executive here. We haven't had one here in years. I think that shows an investment in our incarcerated people, our friends, our neighbors, and it shows that we care and we're going to start taking things differently. One thing I'd hoped was to see a judge from family court or someone who works with youth and juveniles regularly, since we have 25 kids in the Allegheny County Jail, and that's something that's missing on this jail oversight board. We have no one with that youth experience, so while I appreciate you both being here,
If I can interrupt you, I was in family court for 5 years.
who is currently in family court, who will be working with these kids and seeing these same kids, people who know them. What, I'm not finished. They're charged as adults, but they don't always stay that way. I understand that, and please give me my time back for that. Because that was inappropriate, because I don't interrupt you. So don't interrupt me. As I was saying, our jail oversight board needs to be comprised of a mix of individuals who know our population, who work with our population, and who represent our population. People of color, incarcerated people, people with medical background, people who have been inside and outside of that jail. We don't want to see incidences like what happened last year where we had 6 deaths, and the year before where we had 6 deaths, and the year before where we had 5 deaths reported. Those are the ones we know about. We want change, and I'm not here to beat you over the head about what happened with the last board. I'm giving you the chance and the hope that you're here to do differently. And one of the things I would like to ask is that this jail oversight board revisits a past motion wherein they banned the use of those weapons in the jail that still exist. They banned the jail from having them. The warden went on record and said that we will still keep these weapons in the jail and that we will still keep ordering ammunition for these weapons, even though they were banned by this board. And what I would ask is that since this is county property, the county goes in and reclaims their property. So I think that's a very quick, low-hanging fruit off of a past motion that already exists that would greatly improve the lives of incarcerated people off RIP. So if the Jail Oversight Board wants to show a commitment to do better, we should perhaps start with the things that they've already passed that may not have been followed, like the laws that we've passed, like the solitary confinement referendum. We could revisit how administrative custody is done in this jail and the procedures people have for getting off of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jody Lincoln.
Hi, Jody Lincoln, Lincoln. I would like to start off by making a warm welcome to our new county executive, Sarah Namrato. It's delightful to have you here in the room, as others have also mentioned. It's a shame Brad Offers expired. That would have been a nice little treat on your second day. Anyways, I think a lot of people in this room are in general hopeful about what we can do as a new board, new warden, the possibilities to improve the jail feel more real than ever before. And that, goes for all of our new members, hopefully our new, community representatives that'll be selected as well. But in order to start that process, this board has a lot of trust to build with the public at large. This board for years has been extremely antagonistic to the public, and so I appreciate that already we're starting to see response to public comments, questions to the jail based off those public comments. Please keep that going. This should be a space for engagement so that you can learn from the public can hear from both you and the jail. Couple of warnings though, for new members especially, don't tell us that people are working on things without details and, extensive responses to what you're working on. Especially, we just heard that about the medical staffing, right? Everyone who's been coming to these meetings for years has been talking about the medical staffing crisis, and to just be told that people know it's a problem and you're working on it feels like a slap into the face, because it's the same problem that's been going on for years. If you're working on it, tell us exactly what's happening and show us some results, right? That's how you build trust, is not just words, it's actions. Some other low-hanging fruit that could be really great, an agenda that actually reflects, what is discussed and talked about. The chief deputy warden's report, the warden's report, right? This is not actually how these meetings and reports go. It'd be really great if that could actually reflect the reality of what's going on. Also, there's been a very strict policy about if you're not on the comment list by 4 o'clock, you don't get to comment. If you could open the floor to people who might not have been here, right at 3:59, I think that would be really appreciated, especially when there's, delays and stuff. The public comments aren't usually starting right at 4, so giving people a chance who, might be working or have trouble getting here exactly at 4 would be great. But yeah, just in general, I think there is a lot of opportunity for this to be a much better environment on the first Thursday of every month. And just a quick plug while I have a second, some low-hanging fruit about books. We could hire a librarian, allow other vendors, and make a clear way to donate books through the chaplain's office or other venues into the gym. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bailey Brown.
Hello, hello. Bailey Brown, county resident. I will keep it brief today. Welcome, as others have said, to the new board members, especially our county executive, and welcome back to our returning members. I'd like to reiterate my ask from last month to please follow Ms. Hallam's generous lead and codify what this board does, what it has the authority to do, and importantly, be as transparent as possible while you do it, not just about the process, but about your views. You hold a lot of power here, and I don't think you should take it for granted that people are aware of the same precedents that you are. Please cite your sources, and please continue to respond to public comment as much as possible, as you have begun to do today. Thank you for that. Finally, I ask that you take each and every concern about the jail incredibly seriously starting today. These are long meetings, but very important work, as you're aware. Please do the thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mohammed Nasir.
My name is Muhammad Ali Nasir, N-A-S-I-R. I go by Manny. I'm one of many who table outside of the jail every week. And last year, I actually did the math while we were sitting here. We welcomed 440 people as they were getting released from the jail. We gave each of them $50, and I did the math on that because it's crazy. It's $22,000. Gave out, I didn't calculate the cigarettes. I didn't calculate the cigarettes or the snacks, but the main reason that we do it is because we know that they need a little bit of humanity whenever they're getting out of a place that does not have any. The reason that I come here every month, the reason that I go outside of the jail every week is because I don't make any distinction between myself and the people who are inside. I often say that I have family and friends who are in there, and some people who know me know that I've been in there too. But I also know that, at any moment, I could be in there again. It's important for me to say the first time I was in there, my very first experience with incarceration, period, or the criminal legal system, was as a juvenile in the ACJ. I was eventually decertified and eventually acquitted. So if you look at it like that, if we're actually innocent until proven guilty, I shouldn't have been in there in the first place. But I was. And it's important for me to also say that the people who are in there now, overwhelming majority, I believe 95%, are not convicted on the charges that they're sitting in there for. I cannot count how many people who got released with charges withdrawn, or people who beat their cases, and they don't get the time back that they spent inside. I cannot count how many people had medical ailments or medical problems. Like I said, I know a woman who lost a thumb. I know another woman who has a permanent limp because of the lack of medical care in the ACJ. So, of course, we're aware of these issues. Of course, I understand it's a new board, and I'm very hopeful about what the future holds. Very, very optimistic, but I'm not naive about what's been happening in that jail, for decades. And I want to give props to the people who are here and say that you have a lot of eyes on you. You have a lot of people who have a lot of faith, who are putting their faith in you. But I also want to remind my comrades to stay vigilant and hold these people accountable, even the people that you support up there on that board. You know what I'm saying? And again, it's important for me to say, I make no distinction between the people who are in the jail and myself. Every time I hear about a death in the jail, I wonder if it's my nephew. You know what I'm saying? I wonder if it's my homie. You know what I mean? Who actually got his tooth knocked out by one of your COs. You know what I mean? I wonder if it's my nephew, like I said, who got beat up by another CO. You know what I'm saying? Both of them been in solitary confinement, even though they're not supposed to be. So, like I said, I know we talk about people who are in the jail. These are our people. We are a part of the same community. You know what I'm saying? So let's act like it.
Thank you. Tim Stevens.
Hi, Tim. Thank you so much. Good to see you.
Thank you.
So good evening, everybody. Someone doesn't want me to speak. They might just, hello. I'll just shout out and hope for the best. This is what's left of me.
That one, like the last one on the disc.
Well, I think we'll do it.
Because I don't know if it'll pick up on the video.
I went-
if you don't have a mic.
It's there, it's just,
Fell down. Pull.
yeah,
Their
just.
technical support now.
Now, you know, black people have a feeling about stuff happening to us, but I'm not going to go there. Just a little humor for the beginning of the year. I could become a council member for a moment, I guess. Yeah, do that.
Thank you, PJ.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Welcome. We need a little humor in these meetings sometimes. So I wanted to share a letter, a very short letter. For me as chair, it says as chair BPEP, Black Political Empowerment Project, I'm requesting that each of you review in detail the open letter outlining dangerous conditions and a plan of action for Allegheny County Jail BPEP position paper dated October 1st, 2022. A 8-page letter. As the Allegheny County Jail Oversight Board begins this new year of 2024. I'm also asking that the letters, position papers, and recommendations made from other organizations, such as the Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network, PEN, Abolitionist Law Center, the Alliance for Police Accountability, One Hood, the Peace is Possible Coalition, and others, be thoroughly reviewed as a priority for this new year to consider what needed actions have not as yet been taken and what actions should be implemented in the future. It's our hope that you, Sarah, as our new county exec, showing your commitment as a new start for the Allegheny County Jail Oversight Board by being present tonight, along with you, Shane, as our new interim warden, that a new positive and open relationship between those of us who have continued to appear before this board month after month, month after month, will we create a new moment in our relationship and a new sense of accomplishment. That's what we hope will happen. And that the folks incarcerated in our jails, that their rights will be protected, their needs will be met. That's what we'd like to see in the new year. Thank you for being with us, and we do appreciate, I think all of us appreciate the interaction that has begun. A little more of a human approach, I think, would go a long way for the new year. Thank you.
Thank you. Sister Barbara Finch.
Sister Barbara Finch, F-I-N-C-H. Happy New Year to you all. I come before you today representing PIN, Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network, as well as I'm involved in so many other social justice and interfaith organizations. But today I'm here for PIN. I come before you so that you might understand who we are and why we have come before you month after month. In Scripture, the prophet Micah says that God requires us to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with our God. While in a free democracy, it is said that there must be the separation of church and state. As people of faith, we are called to respond to issues of injustice, disparity, and discrimination. We are a network of congregations and organizations committed to community building, working with politicians and policymakers, direct action, and negotiation to transform our communities. We know that positive social change in society has come from organized people in some form, and very often organized faith community has been part of the most powerful social movements in our country. As we remember and celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. this month, we know this to be true in the civil rights movement as an example. We as PIN work so that there is quality public education for all, gun violence prevention, environmental justice, and yes, criminal justice reform that includes the Allegheny County Jail. We support programs such as the Colorful Background Expo. Nothing is too small or too great for us if it means the quality of life for all our neighbors is improved. Whether it's advocating for a stop sign in a dangerous intersection, transportation equity, wage equity, equity for women and people of color, and immigrant rights. Bottom line, we are here to work with you to promote justice. May this be our common New Year's resolution. And as a postscript, you know, we're a full network of people. We have our sleeves rolled up. And Sarah, we're willing and able to work with you in all these areas to make your goals come true. Thank you.
Thank you. Reverend Dave Swanson.
My name is Dave Swanson. I'm here as president of the Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network, and I'm pastor of Pittsburgh Mennonite Church in Swiftsvale. As Sister Barbara just shared with you, PIN is on the move right now, but we have been here waiting, acting and waiting, taking action and waiting for over a year. In the summer of 2022, as the deaths at the county jail mounted, and then in late summer when the Pitt social work department put out their study regarding the conditions in the county jail, the information, the knowledge of the depths of the problems permeated our entire base. As Sister Barbara mentioned, our base, we are across the entire county, people of faith who find it intolerable when our neighbors are not treated justly. As Brother Manny said, we make no distinction between those who are in the jail and those who are like us who are out here on the outside. And that's because we are siblings. Our faiths have taught us this. And so since the summer of 22, we've been coming to these meetings, and we've been participating in vigils, working with our coalition partners. We've protested, we've taken action, but most importantly, we've sought to build relationships, because we understand that you all need to hear from us, from your constituents, from the members and neighbors of our county. And so we have sought to build relationships with you on the board. We have sought to build relationships with the jail administration. And in seeking to build a relationship with the previous warden, we were utterly stymied. We tried for over a year, and I am grateful to report that we were able to meet with Acting Warden Dady before the holiday and are going to be able to meet with him again later this month. But right now, we demand that accountability be had for those who are in positions of power and can affect the lives of our neighbors in the jail. And so we have, having been stymied by the warden himself, we went around him and we've surveyed your COs in the jail. We've surveyed the medical staff. We've learned firsthand from folks who have been coming out of the jail what's going on. We have worked with our partners and built our coalition. And we've come to understand that the situation is not only desperate for residents in the jail, but it's also desperate for staff. The morale among the staff is low. Their ability to carry out their jobs, particularly in the medical side, has been compromised by the situation they find themselves and the tasks they're being asked to do. To the extent that for some of our medical folks, the things they're being asked to do in the jail, have been asked to do in the jail, goes against their registration, their licensure. So what we're asking for you to do with us in this coming year is to be our partners. But what we have to tell you is that if you will not be our partners, we will be your adversaries. And we do not want to do that. We want to work with you, we want to talk, and we want to listen and work together to improve the lives of our fellow residents, fellow citizens, fellow neighbors, fellow sisters and brothers in that jail. Thank you.
Thank you. John Kenstowitz.
Very good. Yeah, my name is John Kenstowitz, Kenstowicz. I'd like to welcome our new board. I am also part of PIN, and we're speaking on behalf of PIN. What I want to talk about today is the need for individual therapy at the Allegheny County Jail. The lawsuit Howard v. Williams regarding the lack of mental health services at ACJ at times mentioned the lack of any individual therapy. Both the American Correctional Association and the National Commission on Correctional Health Care mandate a county jail to provide individual counseling. Last year's ACJ budget had 8 positions for therapists, but no therapists were hired until recently. This starts us on the road to providing individual treatment to our residents. Important question, why do we need individual therapy at our jail? Most people in our jail are in a state of crisis. Many residents have lost their housing, their source of income, and their connection with family. Jail is giving them a new stigma. Many constantly fear that they could be victimized or have a medical condition that will not be treated. Residents are also concerned about spending long hours in isolation in their cell. Many have long been in need of individual therapy because of unresolved conflicts, escalating stress, and problems leading to depression. It is well documented that a large percentage of residents of a county jail have been exposed to violence and would qualify for a PTSD diagnosis. According to a U.S. Department of Justice Bureau of Statistics study, 16% of those people in county jails or on active probation have been physically or sexually abused before their current sentence. Between 23% and 37% of female offenders reported that they had been sexually or physically abused before age 18. So Fran is going to continue this reading. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Fran McDowell.
Fran McDowell, McDowell. I'm also with PIN. The different individual treatment modalities that can be used at our jail. An experienced therapist will say that a person in crisis often reaches a point of personal insight in which they themselves believe change needs to happen. Many county jail residents in crisis need an empathetic ear and voice, providing support and guidance, helping them develop a crisis plan and a treatment plan to foster that change. If a jail can provide treatment modalities such as cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectic behavioral therapy, for example, they'll help a person regulate emotions and change thinking patterns. The treatment modality seeking safety, especially helpful for trauma, PTSD, and substance abuse, has been used successfully in many county jails and prisons throughout the country. Seeking safety helps people develop skills to remain safe and cope with the multiple risks to their person, including addiction. This treatment can be used in an individual and a group format. At one point, seeking safety was provided as a group process at our jail. It should be employed again as a foundation to help prepare a resident to, once released, successfully engage in trauma-induced therapy as an outpatient. Since trauma-induced therapy involves a person re-experiencing their trauma, it's much more appropriately used as outpatient services when the therapist and the resident have the extended time needed to work together. Working with a therapist when in crisis can be a gateway to change and growth. Denying residents that opportunity because the county is not at this point able to hire more therapists is wrong. Providing individual therapy to those involved in our criminal justice system is humane and beneficial, not only to those individuals and their families, but to society as a whole. The opportunity to continue treatment in outpatient services. Residents who have been introduced to individual therapy at the jail or who have previously had individual therapy should be encouraged to continue in treatment upon leaving the jail. By initiating a referral from the in-house therapist to an outpatient therapist, the areas previously covered in treatment, as well as what further treatment is needed, are effectively conveyed. Continued cohesive therapy will have a direct impact toward lowering recidivism. Thank you.
Thank you. Diana Hall.
Diana Hull, Hull. What are the needs of a resident at our jail to participate in individual therapy? Years ago, Abraham Maslow developed a critical, important theory. Individuals have a hierarchy of needs and become preoccupied with their most immediate need. Other needs are delayed or forgotten about because of the immediacy of the current need. Maslow would say that a resident of our jail would need to feel safe, well-nourished, and be receiving adequate health care before they could start thinking seriously about individual therapeutic needs. In our county jail, there is a deep interactive relationship between the different deficiencies at our jail: nutritious food, adequate health care, a safe environment, and time out of cell. Each of these problem areas will affect others. Loss of nutritious food can affect a person's medical needs. Fear of safety can affect a person's diet and mental health. A lack of structured time outside the cell can cause muscular atrophy and depression. The staffing crisis at our jail needs to be confronted with will make individual treatments much more available and successful. One can see that by following Maslow's theory of the hierarchy of needs, our jail needs to confront the staffing crisis to truly make individual therapy more possible and practical in our jail. The lack of staffing in areas such as security and mental health throws a wrench in the wheel of progress and reduces hope for the growth of individual treatment at our jail. Penn will be presenting in February more recommendations regarding how the staffing levels at our jail can improve. If a new JOB and a new administration confront the staffing crisis and staffing levels improve, individual therapy will become much more likely. Many more residents will want and benefit from individual therapy with positive changes in the staffing levels. The recruitment of therapists will also improve, and the word in the informal networks will be that successfully working as a therapist at our county jail is becoming more possible. So what can be done? Besides confronting the staffing crisis, our jail administration and our JOB can develop deep connections with our mental health providers in the community. Outpatient mental health practitioners interested in promoting individual treatment services in our jail and individual therapy to people leaving the jail need to be meeting with jail administration and the JOB now to begin planning. Their expertise in mental health is needed, along with consultation by administration and frontline staff about the realities of providing individual treatment in a county jail. Change can happen with all of us working together. Thank you. And I am also from Penn.
Thank you. CJ Swanson.
Hello, my name is CJ Swanson. That is SWANSON, and I am an intern at Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network. I would like to welcome the new members of the board, and I would welcome to the old members of the board to a new year. Richard Shuba was the 22nd person to die from, incarcerated in the ACJ since 2020, not including the 3 deaths that took place at the Renewal Center since 2020. Mortality reviews are impartial. They are so needed. They're so needed, and it is absolutely necessary that there's a mortality review for Richard Shuba, if one has not been conducted already, and for the 25 people that have died in the past 3 full years, now working on the past 4th year. I am very passionate about this. I'm sorry, I'm a little shaky. Don't apologize. But my main point today is to our new members of the JOB. Welcome, and if you are not used to how these meetings work, we all come and we speak to you. We plea with you because the majority of the members of the JOB are not stepping foot in the jail to see the injustice that is happening under their watch. It is not enough to simply get your reports from the administration sitting here in front of you today. There has been a consistent pattern of the administration withholding information from families of incarcerated people, from families who have had lost their family members in our jail, and they do not have access to the medical records of their loved ones. They don't know how they died. And that is, you have the power to make that change. It is not enough to simply rely on the words of the people at the top that the people at the bottom are not suffering. And we know they're suffering because 25 people are dead. I ask that you go to the jail, that you speak with the people who have no resources, and the only resources provided to them are provided from you. I ask that you speak to the staff, to the medical hires who are constantly leaving because they're being asked to do things that break their licensure. I ask that you talk to the correctional officers. I ask that you build relationships with the people that you hold power over. Because not only do you hold power over them, but you have a responsibility to them. And it is your job to respect that. I hope that you know that your job is not once a month at this meeting. Your job as members of this JOB consists and continues to be your job throughout the whole month. So please do your work outside of this room and go see the people at the jail who are suffering. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon
Bonavolia.
Thank you.
That silent G is very tricky. My name is Sharon Bonavolia, Bonavoglia. I am also with PIN. We at PIN are hopeful that new county leadership and a new JOB will lead to significant improvement for our neighbors housed inside the Allegheny County Jail and all the institutions under your jurisdiction. I have a friend who spent May through August of last year at the ACJ. Eventually, all the charges were dropped. But as a small business owner of a landscaping company, he lost the major part of his ability to make money last year, money he used to pay a few part-time employees as well. He also has some mental health challenges that went untreated while at the ACJ, and it's taken several months for him to be able to get on with his life. The most important change that could happen with the ACJ is that no one be housed there. That so many are housed due to the inaction of our court systems is shameful. If judges and the system are going to continue to arrest and house our neighbors, then we must push for you to do, at the very least, provide for their needs, including their needs for mental health services. Lives are at stake. Individual human beings and their friends and family spent the New Year celebrations without their loved ones. For 8 families, this was their first time. Lives are at stake, and because they are, those who have already lost their lives inside our county's system of incarceration need to be acknowledged and remembered. For those of you who are new here, I will be here every month to read those names. It is essential that we remember them and their friends and their family to recognize just what really is at stake. So I would respectfully request that at this point you turn off the timer so it does not inadvertently go off while I read the names. And I do ask that all of you rise for the readings of the names of the dead since April 2020. There you go. Richard Lenhart. Robert Blake. Cody Still. Daniel Pastoric. John Brady. Martin Busek. Robert Harper. Vinkley Harris. Justin Brady. Paul Allen. Roger Millspaugh. Paul Spisak. Gerald Thomas. Jerry Lee Ross, Jr. Victor Joseph Zelenek. Ronald Andrus. Anthony Tallada. William Spencer. James Washington. Damon Leroy Kays. Tim Menino. Douglas Bonomo. Zachary Som. Nicole Barufi. And tragically, on December 21st, yet another, Richard Shuba II.
Thank you, everybody. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes for the November 2nd, 2023
So moved.
meeting?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call?
Aye.
Are there any internet public comments?
No, there were none.
Do you mind if because there wasn't a sign-in sheet, there's no, I didn't get a chance to hear that. I won't take the minutes.
Okay, come on up.
Very quickly, my name is Carlos Thomas. CARLOSTHOMAS. Something I want to speak to, which
Can
I
you
think.
say your name again? I'm sorry.
Carlos Thomas, CARLOSTHOMAS. Something I wanted to speak to that I think amongst all the other low-hanging fruit is it takes approximately 12 to 15 hours to process through the county jail, no matter what you're arrested for. There's approximately 130 plus police jurisdictions, and I'm wondering how that is figured out in consideration with the amount of people that are coming into the jail versus the amount of people that are leaving the jail. It was brought up earlier that most of the people that come into jail aren't actually guilty until proven innocent, but if I pay my bail now, I may not get out until tomorrow morning. The law says I'm innocent, and you still have me incarcerated. I still have to follow the rules of the corrections officers. I'm still treated like as a criminal, and I think that's a problem. It's very problematic when you go to jail for things like child support, traffic citations, or other things that you're obligated to keep employment for. 12 to 15 hours is enough time to miss your rent payment, to miss a shift at work, to miss picking up your kids. And if you don't have these things set up, most of the times the law enforcement officers in this county do not allow you to make a phone call before you actually go into jail. It takes about 6 5 to 6 hours before you actually get into the space where you can make a free phone call. So there's a period of time where you're missing, for lack of better words, to society, no matter what your obligations are. And I think that's important to address, considering the amount of people that are coming into jail for no goddamn reason.
Can I ask you a question? Just so I know, you're talking about the time to get processed out?
Yes.
Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Processed in and out. And I think that if we speed up the processing time, that we might delay some of the deaths.
I just wanted to make sure I was understanding what you were talking. Thank you.
No problem.
Maybe that's something I wanted to ask anyway about that, so you can ask the warden. Thank you.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes for December, what was the date?
December 7th.
December 7th, I'm sorry, 2023.
Second.
Thank you. Do you all do a roll call or?
Roll call.
Roll call.
I think for meeting minutes, we can just do a vote of acclamation.
Okay, do we have a vote of acclamation, please?
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed?
Thank you, Councilwoman. Okay, the warden's report, please.
Good evening, Board. I want to address the jail death that occurred December 21st. The deceased was a 41-year-old male, Richard, who was brought in on December 18th on a bench warrant for unsworn falsification to authorities and false reports, and was being sought following a police pursuit. Additionally, he had 2 Allegheny County detainers. At approximately 5:20 a.m. on December 21st, a corrections officer found the individual unresponsive in his cell. A medical emergency was then called, and correctional medical staff responded and attempted life-saving measures. City paramedics arrived and took over care of the patient, who was then declared deceased at 5:52 a.m. There were no obvious signs of foul play, but staff did find a note left by the individual for his family that could be perceived as a suicide note. If found to be suicide, this would be the first suicide death since May of 2020. The individual's emergency contact was notified, as is the case with all incidents at the jail. The jail administration will conduct a review. This matter has been turned over to the Allegheny County Police for investigation, and as of today, the investigation is still ongoing. All deaths are tragic, and we sympathize with the friends and family of this individual. We continue to work every day with our partners to increase surveillance and take any and all measures to address preventable deaths. But we do recognize that not all deaths are preventable. Though the investigative process, we will continue, through the investigative process, we will continue to work to improve our processes and response to medical emergencies. We were able to bring in members of the State Department of Corrections Critical Incident Stress Management, or CISM team, following the death. These members of the CISM team were on hand to meet with the staff who witnessed the incident, while the healthcare and chaplaincy staff were available to the incarcerated population. We will continue to work with and include state and other entities for programming and training support opportunities as they become available. In December, I had the opportunity to meet with the Pittsburgh Interface Impact Network to hear their goals and plans. We discussed our mutual desire to see the jail succeed, and serve those residing inside the facility. We also discussed the possibility of scheduling additional meetings. I believe that was said in the comments, to continue our ongoing dialogue. Finally, we are pleased to announce that we began the buprenorphine induction at the facility in mid-December. Individuals assessed assessed to benefit from the drug can now begin treatment at the jail without a prescription prior to incarceration. The facility's efforts to further expand its MAT program services to include induction has been a months-long process, and we have reported on our progress throughout the planning and implementation. There's still much to be done. Prior to beginning induction, individuals with opioid use disorder needed to have an active, valid prescription from a community provider to receive the buprenorphine continuation services while incarcerated. The facility also provides on-site one-on-one counseling as part of the MAT process. That concludes my report, and I'll now turn it over to Chief Beeson for the Deputy Warden's report.
Thank you, Warden. Good evening, Board. Updated on our staffing, our current cadet class began on Monday, December 18th, which consists of 21 candidates who are scheduled to graduate Friday, February 23rd. We have physical agility testing scheduled for next week on January 9th and 11th. I believe that's Tuesday and Thursday. Those passing the physical test those days will be given an interview the same day. And this is in anticipation of our next cadet class scheduled to begin in early March of this year. Currently, we have 10 males, 2 females awaiting transfer to the PA Department of Corrections. We have 5 males, 0 females with detainers, 7 males, and 0 females with open cases. The longest wait time on a 300B was received November 16th, and the shortest wait time is from December 18th. Currently, we have 20 federal inmates in the facility, 13 of which are United States Marshal holds. 7 are federal transfers for Allegheny County Court. And our use of force numbers for December of 2023 is 34. Deputy Clerk will continue the Deputy Warden report.
Good evening, Board. For chaplaincy and pre-release, the Foundation of Hope packaged and distributed holiday care packages to the incarcerated population. Packages which included thermals, Sarah's candies, pens, notebooks, and hot chocolate were distributed to everyone in the jail on December 13th. On December 11th, Hope Program participants on 1A and 2C participated in a holiday talent show. Participants enjoyed being able to share their talents with jail staff and other incarcerated individuals on their housing unit. Hanukkah services were held in the jail on December 12th and were warmly received by those who participated in the services. Discharge and release. In December, the Discharge and Release Center assessed 295 individuals and distributed 82 boxes of Narcan, 295 fentanyl and xylazine test strips, 829 condoms, and 431 bus tickets. In 2023, the DRC assisted a total of 3,680 individuals and provided resources to them to aid in their transition back into the community. Contact visits. The jail is continuing to host contact visits for juveniles, incarcerated workers, veterans, and program participants on designated Saturdays throughout the month. For the month of December, a total of 68 incarcerated individuals received contact visits from a total of 137 family members. During contact visitation in December and in celebration of the holidays, snacks such as cookies, donuts, soda, and fruit were served and enjoyed by family members and their incarcerated loved ones. For the juvenile contact visit, all eligible juveniles were permitted to partake in the festivities even if they did not have a loved one visiting them. Residential placement services. Based on orders from the court, Residential Placement Services facilitated the transfer of 46 individuals into alternative housing in December and 25 individuals into substance use treatment through the diversion program. The diversion program received a total of 23 new referrals and served a total of 83 participants in December. In 2023, the jail's Residential Placement Services Department served a total of 1,055 individuals. 723 were placed into alternative housing, and 332 were placed into inpatient treatment through diversion services. The Medical Assistance Program assisted a total of 114 individuals with completing medical assistance applications upon release from the jail in the month of December. In the year 2023, the program completed a total of 1,348 Medicaid applications. 90% of all applications submitted were approved for Medicaid insurance benefits. Reentry services. In December, the reentry program's Angel Tree supported over 70 children with gifts that were purchased, wrapped, and delivered by jail staff. The staff involved in this project donated their time and resources to this endeavor, and it was very appreciated by all the families who received gifts. Educational services. In December, the Education Department supported the juvenile population with a holiday door decorating contest, chess tournaments, and Christmas movies. On Friday, December 22nd, the juveniles received a special lunch funded by the AIU. The lunch consisted of chicken sandwiches, hamburgers, fruit salad, french fries, mac and cheese, and ice cream. The AIU also purchased and wrapped gifts for the juveniles. These events allow the juveniles to have a holiday celebration that was positive, fun, and festive. In December, the jail distributed 500 copies of No Addict Left Behind, Joey Pagano's insightful book about his recovery journey. It serves as an inspirational guide with practical lessons of hope. Mr. Pagano is a licensed social worker and educator from southwestern Pennsylvania. He combines his personal story with professional expertise to aid in addiction recovery through evidence-based methods. Write Pittsburgh concluded the first cohort of the Creative Writing Program. This month, a new cohort of males will start the program, and the program is being expanded to the female population. At the conclusion of the program, participants will present a final reading of their work. That concludes this month's report for programs. Renee Madden will provide the healthcare services update.
Good afternoon, Board. For Torrance commitments and admissions, during the month of December, 1 patient was admitted and transferred to Torrance State Hospital. 5 patients were committed to Torrance State Hospital. 7 patients had their commitment to Torrance for competency restoration rescinded due to their clinical stabilization. Currently, there are 39 patients who are awaiting admission to Torrance, and the longest waiting has been since August 9th of 23. For our tier system, in the month of December, there were 0 individuals identified as a tier 5, and there were 37 individuals identified as a tier 4. For our queues and waiting times, for sick call requests for medical, there are currently 55, with the longest waiting 7 days. For mental health sick call request, there is 1 with the longest waiting 4 days. Our psychiatry queue is 213 with the longest waiting 29 days. And our mental health specialist, which are scheduled out appointments, is 12 and the longest waiting is 6 days. For medication-assisted treatment for substance use disorders, during the month of December, there were 26 individuals prescribed oral naltrexone, with 2 individuals receiving the Vivitrol shot injection prior to community release. There were 47 individuals treated with methadone continuation services, and in total, there were 165 individuals treated with Suboxone and 28 individuals treated with Sublocade. 7 patients were transitioned from Suboxone to Sublocade to support their recovery. For updates, in the middle of December, we began induction for MAT for patients with opioid use disorder. The first patient was screened on December 10th and then received medication on December 14th. Since the launch, there has been 25 patients inducted on Suboxone with an accompanied referral to Unity Recovery for peer support services. The process for continuation services of MAT remains the same.
Questions?
Yeah, oh, you can go first, Judge.
Could I ask about the processing time, specifically, well, for now, processing out, which was always, I think, up to 72 hours, correct?
It usually takes 24 to 48 hours, Your Honor, but it can, depending if medication is not available.
Right?
Correct, yes.
Do we know, though, is there a time we're at now, like as far as where you are? It's 24 to 48, you're saying?
I don't have an average time, but I would say it's 24 to 48 hours, yes.
Does anyone ever track where you are in that?
I don't believe
keep
we,
an average?
I don't believe we track the time that it takes, no.
Okay, what about intake?
I'm not
How
sure what
long
you're
it's
asking.
taking on intake? How long people are sitting in intake?
When being processed in?
Yeah.
So when we receive them in intake, the biggest holdup is usually being seen by the magisterial district judge. Once they're through the arraignment and they get into the processing department, we're having them upstairs in a day. So
I think, could it sometimes take longer than a day?
sure, it could, yeah.
And do you agree that sometimes what happens is the person only gets into the jail screen after they are completely through the processing? In other words, the credit time only starts once they're completely processed?
That's what I'm referring to. Once they're back in our processing department, they're booked into our OMS system. That's where I'm talking about. We usually have them through there within a day.
Right.
It could be a matter of hours before that, but before they get to the pre-arraignment stage.
So my point is, and what I'm trying to get at is, if somebody sits in processing for 2 days, and then you enter them into your OMS system, then they sat for 2 days that aren't showing, and I can't give them credit for the 2 days. Can somebody put into your system that you actually had them in custody for 2 days prior to that?
Our ASAP system would show when they were actually brought into the jail.
Yeah, but they're not.
In the scenario that you're describing, if somebody was put into the processing department and sat there for a day or two and didn't get booked in, then correct.
Right. Can somebody look into that, though? Because I can tell you, in the 12 years I've been in criminal division, that's not the way it works. I know because they're arrested on the criminal information, it shows the date of the actual offense.
Right.
And then I know when they're clocked in. In other words, I can see, I know they were arrested at the scene, and then I know when their jail credit starts.
Okay.
So I know that they're not, I know that it's not working. I know that 2 days have passed.
Just for
Because I know they were arrested at the scene.
Sure.
And I know that the jail screen shows that they were lodged 2 days later. And I know that that can't happen. So in other words, can somebody look at when they actually came into custody? And they can say, well, he's been here for 2 days, so let's put him in the jail screen effective when we actually had him.
So you're saying when they arrived at the jail versus when they were booked in?
Versus when we actually finished processing them.
Okay,
Do you know what I mean?
I do.
If somebody can look at that.
Sure.
At least that's one thing that has always driven me insane when we're talking about processing. And then the other thing is what takes so long processing out? I'm just curious.
Once they're booked in, then they
Yeah,
have
if they
to
don't
be,
have any medications. If there's no medications, what's the,
well, they're still seen by healthcare in the processing department. So they're seen by physical health and mental health in those areas. So until the booking, the medical, and the physical health is completed, that's when they're then sent to the other, back to the other side of intake before being sent upstairs.
and I'm sorry because I'm new, so I'm trying to get, so they have to see somebody, and then they have to see mental health and the physical people?
Our corrections officers book them in to the OMS system. They're then seen by.
No, I'm sorry. I'm talking about, and I apologize, I'm moving too fast. So I'm good with that. You're going to look at going backward in making sure that they get the credit for when you actually took custody of them.
Okay.
Now I'm getting to the part where they're leaving. When they're leaving.
Sure.
And say they come back from court, and it's, say it's noon or 1 o'clock.
Right.
And I've now sentenced them, and they're free to go. You get
Right.
your 6A. And I know the order says you have up to 72 hours to release them. Who do they need to see before they can actually get released? But you get the order, you got the 6A, it says release them forthwith.
So once we receive the paperwork, that goes to our records department, who then reviews the folder. So they have to check for any other active cases, detainers, any warrants that are holding them currently. Once that's cleared, then that information is sent to our ID technicians, who run that information through the NCIC to check.
Make sure they're
Again,
all clear.
correct.
Okay.
Then that folder goes to our intake supervisors for a second review, just to make sure everything is cleared out of that folder, okay?
Okay.
Then they're entered into a queue to make sure, or to verify that if medication is needed, that is provided to the intake department before that individual is brought down.
And that would involve the medical staff
Yes.
having to look at it?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And if they didn't, then where's it go?
So if they don't have any medications, then the individual is brought down, they're processed out at that point.
Okay, so it's just basically a lot of people having to move their file around for them to get out, is that
Correct.
what it is? And
Yes.
double checking to make sure that there's not a detainer or
Sure.
a warrant. Okay,
To avoid an erroneous release or
Right.
a
Okay.
responsible release if they have medication needs.
got you. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I heard that somebody, the first interview for the MATs was December 12th, the first person, and then they got their first medication on December 14. Is that correct?
The first screening was the 10th.
The 10th, and then they got it on the 14th. Why did it take 4 days to get them their medication?
Yes, that's a good question. So all of our patients are screened during the intake process for opioid use disorder by our staff, and then that patient will then get placed on the next available clinic day schedule for our addiction medicine provider, and that's the prescriber that sees the patient and determines the dose to start the patient on and the start date for that. So if a patient has a positive opiate in their urine drug screen, they'll be started on a detox, protocol for withdrawal management. That happens immediately.
Okay.
And then the screening comes in for opioid use disorder, and then the patient waits to see the provider, again, to determine the starting dose and the appropriate start date, given the other medications that they're on.
When they're started on detox, does that include some sort of medication?
Yes, the detox protocol, there's a medication protocol depending on what's in your system.
And that happens immediately?
That happens when it's identified, yes, so when they meet with the medical team.
Okay, thank you. We're going totally out of order. Let's just
There's
start.
never an order. No, I just have a couple follow-ups. First of all, judges, I think, having you here and asking these questions is different than what we've had in the past, and the executive being here as well. We can get a lot more information and detail. So I just had a couple follow-ups. I did want to mention the bylaws, but we're going to talk about that later, so I want to thank Judge for that. Just a couple things. When I did 2 inspections in December, review of intake, and I know that, the acting warden has been talking about that and making some changes down there. It would also be helpful, and we had heard this before, and hopefully we can all see the report. There is an NCCHC report on the intake, and I believe last time we heard it was in the manager's office. So if we could get that, I don't. If you want,
publicly posted on the jail's website under reports. But
is it okay? I'm sorry. I remember we answered that question. But I think moving forward, obviously talking about intake is something that's really important to all of us. We've been mentioning that for a while. Notifications is another one to loved ones. I more or less want, the warden, I don't know if it already started when we did that tour, and I don't know if, I believe the city already did this, but what's it been like since January with the changes, if they actually happen? I know we discussed it on warrants and things like that not being processed quick enough. Has that happened? I know we talked about it while we were there on site.
We have not been made aware of any delays or issues from, if the warrant office did in fact close on the.
Okay, because I knew it was coming January 1st or 2nd was supposed to. So if it didn't, that's good to know, just because I know we had talked about that process when we were there. Right. So that was my big question, because, if that office is not going to be doing that, the stress that's going to be on intake is going to be even more. So the constant review and conversation about that's very important moving forward. So Judge, I'll just leave my comments for when we do the amendment at the end of the meeting. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sheriff, do you have any comments or questions? No. County exec?
Thank you, President Judge. My question has to do with some of the public remarks that were brought up at the beginning of this meeting when they were talking about the need for additional health care providers at the jail, and especially around therapists that can provide that very valuable and necessary treatment for individuals who are incarcerated. So just from your perspective, What are you doing to actively recruit folks to work at the ACJ and fill these open positions? What successes have you had recently in hiring people? And how can our administration support your work in filling open positions?
So in 2022, we added to our staff a staffing specialist to dedicate to recruiting, not pulling away from our HR staff, so being complete dedication. We recently also added a staffing specialist supervisor that will oversee the staffing specialist. We saw that with only one staffing specialist that was pretty much dedicated to the correctional officer side and that recruiting and that process, since it's very different from healthcare. So that's why we added the supervisor role, so that we could have 2 individuals dedicated to recruiting, hopefully having one focused more on the healthcare, since it is very unique in of itself, as well as one dedicated to the correction side, as well as all of our other open positions. We also just recently submitted a request for incentives for hiring bonuses. So that would be coming across in the near future to add to our ability to recruit. With especially specifically for therapists, RNs, LPNs, MAs, and healthcare social workers, because we identify that that's another position that really helps. And Renee Madden can speak more to this with getting people out of the facility and finding them other commitments. So those are the efforts that we're making in the recruiting side right now.
Great, thank you. And what kind of results have you seen since you've implemented those positions?
Well, the position was just implemented December of 2023,
Yeah,
so we haven't seen any. But with the correction side, we've seen our classes jump from 2 and 3 to our most recent class of 20. So the impact from the initial hire has been huge, and we just put the request in for the bonus incentives for the hiring bonus. So we'll hopefully see that over the next 6 months.
Okay, thank you for that very specific update.
I do have one question. What is the difference between Tier 4 and Tier 5?
So Tier 5 means a patient is actively self-harming or an active suicide attempt, and Tier 4 would be someone who's at imminent risk of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. So I want to start off by saying a compliment, because at my recent visit to the jail, what was that, a week or so ago, I spent a lot of time in the kitchen because it looked like a totally different kitchen. I actually thought I went into the wrong room for a second when I first got there. I love the CO who's actually in there at a desk supporting the workers there. They informed me of a commissary pantry incentive program for the workers in the kitchen to make sure you get the best workers. I think that's dope too. Even the TVs and the welded racks to make sure that the trays aren't drying or not drying wet and then getting disgusting. Things such as squirting off the trays before you put them through the dishwasher. I mean, such simple little changes that the previous administration refused to make, that I can just tell the whole vibe in at least that kitchen was very, very different. So whoever took place in that, I thank the officers who were in the kitchen when I was there, but I wanted to thank you all as well, because I really could just feel a difference in that kitchen, and I could tell amongst the workers. But then, since I led with a compliment, I want to say that something that was really concerning to me, and I don't know who is best to answer this. In my recent visit, I went to Pod 4B, which I didn't even realize until I got there is a pod for people who are in the Suboxone program. And so I was a former Suboxone patient, so I'm pretty familiar with how the Suboxone programs work. And at least when I was on it, and I was prescribed 24 milligrams a day, it was very specific that I had to take 8 milligrams in the morning, 8 milligrams in the afternoon, and 8 milligrams in the evening. I'm not a doctor. I do not know why it was like that, but I knew that there was a very specific reason why that was to happen. As I talked to the people on 4B, I was informed that not only are they getting their entire dose at once, sometimes as much as 20 milligrams all at once, which I can tell you how rocked I would be if I ate 20 milligrams of Suboxone right now. It seems really, really dangerous, but also they're being being given it between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. And so they're literally being woken up in the middle of the night to be given their medication. And I was told that it's because of staffing, that the people who provide it, that's the only time they can do it. So I have a lot of big issues with that. I was just wondering if someone could speak to that.
Yeah, so as long as I've been at the jail, that's the time period that the med pass happens. And specific dosing, also not a doctor, can't tell you why a certain dose is chosen, but the prescriber meets with the patient in clinic, chooses the appropriate dose, and then there is one medication pass for that happens on the overnight shift.
Are you saying the doctor says one dose a day? Like they should be given all their medication at one time between 1 and 4 a.m.?
No, we're talking specific about MAT only. So that's
I understand.
That's a totally separate medication pass. It's its own. And so, yeah, the patient is dosed once a day for MAT.
And that's per the doctor's instructions?
Yes.
So, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead. And so the doctor says to give it all at once?
Yeah, that's how the medication is prescribed.
Okay, and then do they also say what time of the day to give it?
The doctor doesn't indicate the time. That's like an operational decision of when that happens. But she's very much aware that it's a one-a-day med pass.
Okay, and why is that? Can someone speak to why that is the time that's chosen for? Because I know there was even a med pass happening on the pod, like a regular med pass. So there are med passes happening not between 1 and 4 a.m. So why is the MAT specifically at that really inconvenient time? Not to mention, aren't you then sick by like dinner time or by the time you go to bed? You'd be starting to go through withdrawal a little bit.
I mean, if you have the medication the same time every day, I think your body is used to that. But as far as exactly why that time is chosen, I don't have an answer to that.
Can we look into that? Because it seems kind of nuts to wake people up in the middle of the night to give them medication.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is about, I was on the jail trail and I saw that there was a window that was busted out from one of the cells, maybe on like the second floor or the third floor facing the river. Did something happen? Can someone tell us about that? I mean, I have a picture on my phone of like a crane fixing a window that has bars on it.
It was already being fixed?
Yeah.
Oh.
Or maybe they were putting the boards up, I don't know. But there's a crane, like a big orange crane there right now.
We weren't made aware of any issue from the outside.
Huh, okay. Can I show you the picture after the meeting?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was from like 2 days ago.
Well, obviously facilities is aware of it, so they were fixing it.
Yeah, there wasn't an incident that caused the window to be broken?
No.
Okay, that seems like a security issue if windows are just randomly breaking.
Well, I would imagine it was from the outside if it was right off the trail.
You're thinking that it's like a double pane window and you're saying the outside pane was broken and not the inside one?
Yes.
So do you know what window I'm talking about?
I don't.
Okay, so you're just assuming that that's what happened?
Yes.
Okay.
Could you find out the circumstances behind the window repair and just report?
And I'll show them the picture.
I'll follow up with facilities to see
Okay.
how they became aware of it, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. My next question is about specifically how we transport people when they're going to the hospital. So I think if I understand correctly, the sheriffs do the transport. I was originally under the impression that the sheriffs also stayed with an incarcerated individual while they're at the hospital, but it was brought to my attention that corrections officers are doing that.
The sheriff's deputies transport our officers and the individual to the hospital. Our corrections officers stay with them up until the point where they're committed, where they're given a room. That's when Sheriff Krause's deputies take over.
Okay, has it always been that way? And why is that the CO's there just till they're committed to the hospital as opposed to being the custody of the sheriffs?
That's the agreement we have with the sheriff's department.
Okay, I'm just wondering if that is at all contributing. You know, we already have our short-staffed on the corrections officers. I'm just wondering if we could maybe rearrange that agreement with the sheriff so that we're not down more officers at the jail than we need to be?
In what fashion?
That the CO doesn't
leave.
go to the hospital at all, that the sheriff would just take the incarcerated person to the hospital without a CO.
I don't want to speak for the sheriff, but I'm sure that would impact his staffing as well.
And there's language in our CBA to that effect as well, so.
So I guess maybe it's more of a question to you. So the CBA language says you transport them to the jail, leave them until they're committed to the jail, and then come back and stay with them once they're committed?
So what we've done for years, if there's a medical appointment or they go to the jail, the COs, we transport. And then once they're admitted into the hospital is when we take over the security watch.
Right, so what I'm saying is it seems like there's just a tiny little piece that the COs are sitting there. Couldn't Ginge just fill that gap since you're doing the to the hospital and the once they're committed?
It's not part of the agreement or the CBA. So the short answer is no.
Okay, thank you. My next question is that you talked about incentives, what did you call them? Hiring bonuses. I know Englert has been talking about that for literally since the day I met him. I'm so glad you're finally doing it so I never have to hear about it again. But can you speak to those hiring bonuses specifically? I thought I heard you say they were just for medical staff.
The ones that we just submitted for approval. Currently, we already have in place hiring bonuses for RNs, LPNs, and MAs that currently exist. We have resubmitted requesting to increase those and to expand it to include therapists and healthcare social workers.
But still not COs?
No, the request is not for.
Like arguably maybe the biggest staffing problem at the jail. Was that a decision that you guys made, or how was that decision made to exclude corrections officers from receiving hiring bonuses?
It wasn't part of this discussion at this time, and we were specifically focused on the therapists and recruiting in that regard.
Okay, so what is the current hiring bonus like let's say your thing doesn't get authorized for RNs, LPNs, and MAs?
I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I could say it's between $2,000 and $3,000 spread out in installments over a 3-year time period.
Okay.
You don't get it all up front. It's paid after probation, after 1 year, after 2 years, and after 3 years.
Okay. Could you bring that like broken down or email it even, just a breakdown of what those look like? And also then, what is the request for the increase?
Yep,
Do you know that off the top of your head? What's the increase?
To $6,000 for those. Well, the RN is $6,000, and then it's decreased across those positions for LPN and MA.
Is there any plans to expand it for corrections officers?
That would be in discussions with the county manager's office at this time. We've just been addressing the healthcare needs.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that very much. Also, I heard you say the agility test is happening this week. Is that the one that we have talked about before? Could we get an invite for the board, please?
To observe it?
No, to participate. I'm serious. I think we should know what that's like.
I think you might want to ask the rest of the board if they want to run stairs.
You carry a dummy down the hall? No?
Speak for yourself over there.
I really want to.
No, thanks.
Would I be welcome to attend one of the days if we could talk about scheduling that? Because that is one of my questions from last month is,
Think
please
about the
let me know.
pleasure that you could have in
Yeah,
student council.
watching me
working out
suffer.
through this test.
Can I do that?
If you want to sign a waiver.
I will sign, well, I will read it 10 times first, but I will sign a waiver. Is that true? Like, can I reach out to you to maybe schedule what time that will be on those days?
Sure.
Thank you very, very, very much.
Tuesday and Thursday next week. I don't know what time. I believe it's at 11 a.m.
11, okay. Do it on my lunch break. Thank you very much. My next question is about, I had heard, and I don't really understand how, I didn't know there were 2 different HRs. I didn't know there was a county HR and a jail HR department. And so I have been told that a lot of the hang up and the lag time in hiring new folks, whether it was COs or medical staff, is because something to do with the county HR insists on handling it as opposed to leaving it to internal jail HR? Can you explain the difference in like what role each HR department plays in hiring?
So our HR department handles our completing the procedures that are the county's policies. So we will request to fill a position. We will request in our system to hire that position. That all has multiple levels of approval through the county, which is county policy. So our county HR in the hiring and onboarding process are administering those policies and procedures.
Okay, so you guys do the first step. Hey, I need a position. Can we please hire somebody for the position? The county HR then says yes.
Not just the county HR, it also involves approvals from the county manager's office as well as the controller's office to make sure that we have that money approved in the budget. So there are multiple levels of approval, and as well as budget and finance.
Okay, so then you get those approvals. Yes, go ahead. You can hire a person. Now what? Does it come back to jail HR to?
And then we have to find that person. We have to do interviews.
That's you guys?
Yeah, we do our own, so applications are filtered through county HR. They're the ones who identify if that candidate is qualified through the basic requirements of the job. And then it's our responsibility to determine if they meet the institutional requirements for the position, reviewing their applications. And then we set up the interviews and we do the hiring for some of the positions. Positions that require additional criteria, such as correction officers that have agility, psych evaluations, and those are administered through the county HR department. The agility is us. The psych evaluation, those are through the county HR.
Okay, so there's a lot of back and forth.
Yes.
Okay, do you think that there's a way that that process could be streamlined?
We are constantly evaluating it. We did that, I think 2 years ago. We implemented the REACT test. We identified that as not being something that was adding value to our hiring process. So that test was eliminated from the hiring. So we're constantly working with county HR and evaluating those procedures of what is best for the institution and the onboarding.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much. My next question is about, I got a report from somebody the other day, and I know we've talked before about claiming property after you're released, and something I guess I never really considered was, what if you are unexpectedly transferred to another facility? That's what happened to a person who reached out to me, and his family member has been attempting to get like his prescription glasses, funds from his commissary account, but he is in another jail. What is the process for retrieving those items once a person is not on the street but is in another facility?
I guess the easy answer is he probably should have taken his glasses with him when he was transferred, but.
Well, he didn't know he was going. He went from court.
Okay.
But also, yeah.
Okay. Do you have the name of this person?
Yeah, can I give it to you after the meeting?
Please.
Okay. Thank you very much. My next question is about, I heard a report that it was possible that an officer got caught bringing drugs in the facility over the weekend or over the holiday weekend. Can you speak to that? Large quantity of drugs?
It's an active investigation, so we can't comment on that, right?
Okay. Okay. So yes. All right. Thank you. Next thing is, just a couple questions. I've been trying to now for each meeting bring the questions that were unanswered that I was told I would get an answer this meeting forward so that we can maybe get answers to them. So last meeting we talked about the Spanish dictionaries that they should have been in any day now. Have they arrived?
Yes, they actually arrived the day after the last board meeting.
Which is what you said at the last board meeting. Awesome. And we got 20, correct?
We have 8, and a couple of those have been distributed already, and as we need more, we'll order more.
You told me at the last meeting you ordered 20. Did something happen?
I did think that it was 20 that we ordered, but I was mistaken. We ordered 8.
Okay. So where are they housed? You're saying they're being distributed to individual people who request them?
They're currently in my office, and as they get requested, we're getting those delivered.
Okay. None have been requested?
Yeah. We've delivered 2 so far.
Okay, you've delivered 2. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I know Judge Bigley had asked a few questions specifically about intake. At last meeting, we were told that you would bring data on how long folks are spending in intake on average, like not just the guests, but actual numbers, including the shortest time they spend in intake and the longest time. Did you bring that today?
No, we did not. We apologize for that.
Yeah, why was that?
Oversight.
Okay, can you please bring those for the next meeting?
Just to clarify, we can produce currently, as Chief already spoke, from the time they are booked to the time they are put on a housing pod, we should be able to produce that information. We currently do not have a mechanism from the time, as Judge Bigley asked, from the time they enter the door to the time they are booked. So that is something that we are looking at. Like, we can't pull that in a long time period.
Yeah.
No, I think the more interesting, honestly, is really.
Your microphone, Judge.
Your mic.
Sorry. That's one issue because, like I said, I think the thing that always concerned me is, again, from the criminal information tells me that if somebody's arrested at the scene, I know they were in custody, so I know that the person's jail credit starts a certain date, but I look at the jail screen and the jail tells me a different date, if you get what I'm saying. So I know.
Yeah.
So
We understand.
I know there's days missing. And to me, the biggest thing is I already know what that time is, because if I look on the jail screen, I know that date. So I don't care when he got to the pod. What do I care? Not to be rude, but that's not, to me, a date. How long he spent getting in your system to a pod to
Isn't
me
his fault. Yeah.
isn't an operative thing for me. So to me, the bigger concern is how long did it take to process him in and get that credit time started? So to me, somebody should be tracking when he came into custody so that they can then go retroactive back to then. And then the second thing is somebody should be tracking how long it takes to process people out once they get a 6A or whatever. And whether or not, and while I understand absolutely that somebody has to check for all warrants and all that, but whether or not they can streamline that with respect to having maybe one responsible person checking for warrants and then one responsible person double checking, as opposed to multiple people handling a folder over and over, if you get what I'm saying.
So Judge
and
Bigley,
sitting in someone's bin.
And, sorry,
Judge Bigley is asking, can you look into and report back to us whether processing people out, that process can be abbreviated in any way, shape, or form? And I believe Councilwoman Hallam is asking about processing people in.
Correct.
And that delay in time.
I understand. So I can say that the pre-book time is not in a manner that we at this current moment can draw statistics. Though it is recorded, it is on paper. It is something that we are looking into to make an electronic process, and it is something that we have been for a while. So there would be no statistics that I can draw on it in a timely and quickly manner.
Do you understand what concerns me, though, is that they're not electronically doing it? Because if you understand what I'm saying is, if somebody only puts that in electronically after they sat there for 2 days.
Could have been 3 days, yeah.
Then they don't get credit for the 2 or 3 days. On what planet does that make sense to anybody?
So I
But
absolutely.
you're going to look into that.
The pre-book procedure is something we're working on. As far as the request, we can commit to
what you do have.
Yes.
Please do. Thank you. My next question is about, at the last meeting, again, we talked about the mortality review process, and I know Richard Shuba passed away since the last meeting in the jail, and I wanted to remind, I know you guys like to talk about the NCCHC a lot, so I did bring along their standards for health services in the jail. The jail's own policy actually is reflective of the NCCHC standard. It says that a clinical mortality review is to be conducted within 30 days of any death, and a psychological autopsy is to be performed on any deaths by suicide within 30 days. So by my math, it's been about 14 days since Mr. Shuba's death. So you have about 2 weeks to conduct those reviews. Have they started? Can you give me an update on that?
So the administrative death review has been completed by the health department and our healthcare department. And in regards to the mortality death review, as we have spoken at this meeting prior, that will be outsourced to NCCHC through the contract with the county manager's office. So that will be a report that will be produced, just as all other reviews to date. And then the suicide evaluation would not be conducted until it is determined that it was a suicide. We have internally started to and Renee can speak more to this, to gather the records that would be needed if it is determined that it is a suicide by the medical examiner's office.
Okay, but you understand that just because you entered into a contract with a third party does not absolve the jail of the responsibility of following the standard and conducting the mortality review within 30 days?
We do not have the ability to do that in-house, and that's why we use a third party. We will work with NCCHC to hopefully get that completed within the timeline, but we feel that getting the report in its entirety is the goal. So I appreciate and we respect the standards, but we are working with a third party to accomplish that task.
And to clarify, what about in the past? How have mortality reviews been done in the past?
I can't speak to the past. I know that all mortality reviews have been done on the deaths through 2017.
It was 7 years ago.
I know, but I'm just speaking to what we have done in the past year, that all those have had a mortality death review conducted.
And then what happened from 2017 until today?
We went back to 2017 and did all the mortality death reviews going forward.
Oh my gosh, I thought you were saying you haven't done them since 2017.
No.
You did them prior to 2017.
No, 2017, when the county manager's office contracted with NCCHC, they conducted mortality death reviews on all deaths at the facility back to 2017, which is the initial report that was issued a year ago. And then most recently in the intake report that the controller just asked about, they conducted any death that occurred from that first report to the issuance of the second report.
Scared me for a second.
So
Okay.
mortality death reviews have been conducted through that third party, and we will continue to do so.
Just to follow up on that, sorry, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
Just so I asked for, I didn't say it correctly. I should have asked for the non-redacted report. I think one time we did that in an executive session. So that's what I meant. So if we can have that conversation, maybe that's, yeah. So thank you.
So going off of that then, so it had the previous death before Richard Schuba was Gerald Adams. That was from December 7th of 2023. Was a mortality review conducted on him?
So the in-house review that we do is the administrative review.
Right, I
So
understand.
that piece is done, yes.
But I'm specifically asking about the mortality review. I'm trying to figure out what was the last one that was done.
I don't know that off the top of my head.
Again, I did ask this at last meeting, and I was supposed to be brought information for this meeting specifically about the status of that. So if you guys could please find out, because you're telling me they did them all from 2017 forward, but I want to know, when did they stop?
When did they stop?
Yeah, we don't have one for the most recent death. We don't have one for the last one. I've been asking about all of the recent ones and haven't heard about any mortality reviews about them. But they're required to happen within 30 days of the death, per the jail's own policy and the NCCHC standards, which I brought for you to see
Okay,
today.
and I'm hearing that the NCCHC does the mortality review. So, and I thought I heard you say that they've done them for every death, that they did some retroactively when the contract was entered into. When was that contract signed? Do we know a year, a ballpark?
It was entered into the county manager's office. I don't have that information off the top of my head.
Okay, I mean, was it 5 years ago, 3 years ago?
It was within the past 2 years.
Past 2 years, okay, so let's say it was 1 year ago. They went back to 2017 and did this review for every single death, right?
Correct.
Okay, so when Councilwoman Hallam is saying, what about these names, I have to assume that it was done, right? No?
So the administrative reviews are carried out by our facility. The mortality death reviews, they have been contracted out through the county manager's office to NCCHC.
Don't they give you don't they send it to you?
They do. They send it to the county manager's office. I would have to look into the other December date. I don't have that other report in front of me to be able to say which one is in there.
So you guys don't get them? They go to the county manager?
We get them after they're released, yeah.
I'm sorry?
We get them from the county manager's office since they're the ones who enter into a contract with it.
Okay.
We provide the records upon request. We provide all that information to NCCHC that they need to do their review.
Okay, so it would be your belief that those reviews were done and that they're sitting in the county manager's office if they haven't been forwarded?
Any review that has been completed to date has been publicly released. I have to look into that other one. I don't know that off the top of my head that it was included in that last report.
Do you know about Zachary Psalm from September 13th of 2023? Was a mortality review conducted for him?
Don't have it in front of me, so if you give me a minute to look it up on the website, but I don't have that document in front of me.
Okay, can you let us know next month? Thank you.
And we did ask for it last month, but we'll do one more month, just, to make sure we get all our ducks in a row. My next question from last meeting, when we talked about the young girl who was incarcerated at the jail, is did you look into whether or not the law requires that incarcerated children be separated by gender, or if that's just the jail policy?
No, honestly, I forgot about that. She has since been released.
Yeah.
But I'll follow up with that.
Okay. Again, I would appreciate it for the next meeting. Another thing from the last meeting that we were supposed to get an answer for this meeting, what are the repercussions for the jail if you do not comply with the Department of Justice order timeline regarding MOUD induction? Did you find out what happens if you don't get it completed by October of 2024? Okay.
That seems to me to be a legal question.
They have their solicitor here.
Right, maybe Mr. Bacharach could provide us with the answer to that question. Not right on the spot, but next month. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next thing was regarding the segregated housing reports, the detailed lockdown reports that are required per Chapter 205. More than just like medical safety and security. Chief Beeson, I think you said you were gonna work on bringing those.
All right, I don't recall saying I was going to bring any further reports after the discussion last month.
Do you want me to? I actually took a screenshot because I figured you were going to say that. So this is from the meeting minutes from last month's meeting. And it says, I said, also, you have to give specific documented specific reasons. And I think it was mentioned at prior meetings, lockdown reports. You said, correct. And I said, those are what I'm asking for. And you said they're available at the jail for review.
Correct. They are available for
Did you bring
review.
them from the jail?
I did not.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Next thing that I asked for.
Okay, well, hang on a minute.
Oh, sorry.
No,
okay.
I want to clarify so we know coming back.
I would love that.
Okay, so you're asking maybe every month for this particular report, the lockdown report? Correct. You would like the jail to provide the detailed reasons in their report?
Yes.
Is that?
Correct. They have to generate a specific reason lockdown report. I want them to provide it. Yeah.
Can you guys do that every month?
The reasons for the lockdowns are detailed in the report that is issued out on the 5th of every month. It gives the reason why. Either it's a medical or a safety or security reason. So
it's just categorized as medical reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's being requested is some more detail. Well, not necessarily a name, but
correct.
The circumstances. What kind of medical? What medical condition necessitated this, for instance?
Well, I don't think we couldn't bring medical documentation for release.
No, just a summary. So
a person had this problem.
Right. Just summarize what the particular problem was.
Whatever's in that 205 report.
Mm-hmm.
If you already generated it for the, right?
Yes.
Whatever's in your generated report that you said is available to be seen at the jail. You said it's there for people to see, right?
Right.
So she just wants you to bring a copy with you. Is that what you're saying? Bring a copy up.
Okay, so I will clarify, right? So they are required to post online by the 7th of every month a lockdown report. Okay, they do that. And they put medical, like there are exceptions for why somebody was held in solitary confinement in violation of the statute. They put medical, safety and security. Additionally, the statute requires them to provide a detailed report separate from the one that's posted online, why less restrictive measures were not sufficient and they had to put somebody in solitary confinement. So I was told that those detailed reports were available for inspection at the jail. I'm asking that they be brought to us each meeting.
Okay, and I think as a compromise, instead of bringing all those records up here, if you could just, instead of saying, and you tell me if you're good with this, instead of saying 8 people, medical, we want to know number 1 of the 8. Heart palpitations, broken leg. We want to know the specifics. We don't need a name.
I'd be okay with that.
We just want to know the specific reason.
Okay, I mean, we're going to have to look into how this information would be placed into a report. So it's.
You would just type it, I would think, in like a Word document.
Who generates this? Please don't do that. That's rude. Don't do that. Who does this? Who does this report?
That report is done through data that's entered into a database and tracked. Some of it is reported monthly and compiled into that report.
But I mean, who generates it for this meeting? Like who?
Oh, that comes from analytics.
But can't somebody then just include the report that, because obviously when Councilwoman Helen was talking about the report, you're saying the report that you want exists already.
In the jail, yes.
So then why can't it just be included as another page on here? Because we get this, so it's not like it's disseminated.
No, everybody gets that.
Available.
Pardon me?
Everybody
Publicly
gets
available.
Okay, everybody gets this? Well, then why can't it be
Okay, so
disseminated
the
to us?
bottom line is, can you not just list the reasons, as I just stated? Why can't that be included in the report? Number 1, a broken leg. Number 2, whatever.
Mental health.
Yeah, just some more detail instead of just medical.
We can.
Why is this so, why are you so
Because they're not
reluctant?
doing it.
The information that you're asking for us to provide is in the electronic health record. It is not within the records that we maintain for conformance to the Chapter 205. So the request would be for us, for every instance where medical is noted in our record, or safety and security is noted for our record, to have to then go into the medical health record for those individuals on those days. So that's why I can't say without having a better understanding, because I don't have access to the medical records, to say, yes, we can have that for you every meeting.
Okay, can you look into that for us?
That we have the staffing to do it and to pull that information. So the burdensome of it, drawing those resources off of other, because healthcare has access to the healthcare records. So you're asking me to pull healthcare staff off of other stuff to do that.
It's like
Maybe the person that gives you the 8 medical could just.
It's just logged as medical. They don't have, you know what I mean? Like it's.
Well, when they log it, why couldn't they just log medical broken leg? I mean, how hard is it to add 2 or 3 lines when they log it? That would make it easy, wouldn't it?
We can look into it. I can't.
Okay, I recognize, I'm not
Into the
trying to make
process.
you agree on the spot, but can you let us know? Because the person that logs it would just be required to add a couple more words. Okay, so we'll wait to hear.
Yes, thank you. The next one, something that we've been asking for some time, I think Controller Connor's been talking about it for a while too, the emergency contact next of kin notification form. We've been asking for a copy of that to see what it looks like when the incarcerated individuals.
It's not a specific form, it's just a tab under the OMS system. So back in processing, when we're booking somebody in, that information is entered under what's called the social screen, I believe. Okay, so address, telephone number, and then they give us a next of kin contact. Past that point, if they want to change that, that's when they can reach out through the tablet to our caseworkers or any of the staff to either update it, change it, whatever it may be. But it's not an actual physical form.
Okay, can I get like a screenshot of what it looks like in the system?
I can find a blank one. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. The next thing is, again, and when I hope you know what I'm asking for a lot of these, some of them are just blank forms. I just want to see what the form looks like before it's filled out. The next one is medical and mental health segregation clearance placement form. Yeah, just the form, yeah. The next one is the book rejection and appeals letter since 2022. I know that's something we talked.
For the letters issued, we have no letters issued for those.
You haven't issued any book rejection letters since 2022?
We've never had a.
Never rejected a book?
You asked for if we issued a letter. We did not have a procedure which had an issuance of a letter.
Okay, so
There is
how
no
were they
record.
notified in the past?
It was entered into, well, one, we don't have any way to notify the sender because there's no information that comes with it. for
We talked
email
about that, the
address.
receipt, yeah.
As far as the individual knows that they did not get a book, it would have been posted. Now, we notify them via the tablet, but prior to that, it was, the communication would only be given if the individual asked about a delivery.
So if I like sent somebody a gift and didn't tell them about it and they never got it, neither of us would ever know?
I can't speak to a gift. I can only speak to the books because that's the one that
I meant a gift of a book.
Yeah, it would have been asked if the book was returned for the reasons, and it would have been recorded.
Okay.
But now they're notified via their tablet that the book, that somebody attempted to send a book and it was returned to the sender.
Yeah, they're also notified if a book was received without a receipt and given them the information so that that individual could send in the receipt so we could process the book.
But you've never once done that?
What?
What you just said was the process?
This now
This
with
new
the
process.
tablet, yeah, if we have if the book is, like, if we have a book now and the book is being returned for that information is communicated on the tablet.
Yeah, that's what I asked for, and you said we haven't done it since we implemented the letters.
Not a rejection, because if we don't, like, I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. Like, we didn't reject it for a reason of not, like, content.
No, I didn't say that.
I know, I misunderstood you.
Oh, okay,
I
yeah.
apologize.
I mean, all
So,
rejections.
yes. So it's not a letter, it's just a tablet communication. And I believe I did provide a draft of that as a screenshot of what our standard language is a while
did.
ago. So in regards to, so you want you're asking for every time we've returned a book?
Since 2022, correct. Or since you implemented this new system, how is that? Is that a fair compromise?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as we implement, yeah. I don't see, yes.
Okay, I'll be looking forward to that next meeting. I really appreciate it. The next thing is a specific policy about advanced directives, like how folks set them up when they come into the jail, how they're followed. Do you have some kind of policy about that we could review? You could bring to the next meeting? I don't even know what it would be called, advanced directives policy? Yeah, you know, like DNR kind of stuff, how you set that up.
Do you do that? Do you offer people the option of signing a medical directive?
No, we don't do anything like that right now, so there would not be a policy for that.
Okay.
What about a policy that communicates, like, is there any time that the jail works with the courts to do, like, compassionate releases, whether it's someone who is near death or hospitalized? Do you have a policy for that?
Yeah, we have a critical inmate, critical patient procedure where we put the request in and we indicate why we're asking, what is going on, how we might need support to maintain that patient. So there's a form that we use for that with pretrial services, and then that's the way it gets submitted.
Can I just see a blank one? Again, I don't need to see like any that you filled out, just if I could see a blank one, what it looks like, if you could give that to us before the next meeting, thank you. What about a restraint and seclusion policy? Is that something that you have, like when to use restraints? I know in the use of force, which by the way, I do really appreciate you guys giving us that use of force policy for each meeting. I do find it very interesting. But I know a lot of times we see control techniques, active countermeasures. I think I know what taser means, but those two specifically, is there a policy about specifically restraining someone or segregating, secluding someone?
That's under our use of force policy.
That is, it's all the same policy?
Correct.
Okay. What about your policy? You gave me some really awesome details last meeting about like DHU versus RHU. I had no idea they were the same thing and the different types of restrictions. Do you have a specific policy about procedures for administrative, protective, and disciplinary housing custody?
It's all under disciplinary housing. policy, yeah. I don't know if that's the exact title of it.
Is that the title?
I don't.
That's what I would guess it was, but I don't know if
I don't
that's
know.
really, okay.
Yeah.
What about a policy regarding segregated individuals, like how to keep them separate, how to segregate them in different pods? or-
Same policy.
Same, all the same. Can I have that and the use of force policy? And that, yeah, oh, sorry. Did I talk over you? I'm sorry. Okay. And then I only have one last question, is that you talked about the doctor prescribing the Suboxone. What is that doctor's name?
It's Tori Pipak.
Can you, wait, what is it?
P-I-P-A-K.
P-I-P-A-K.
Can you spell that again? I'm sorry.
P-I-P-A-K.
Thank you.
Is that from AHN?
All of our providers are, yes.
From AHN. Okay, thank you very much. I look forward to all the information next meeting. That is all I have.
Ms. Hallam, I just wanted to follow up on your earlier question. So the report released dated September 27, 2023, that was the intake evaluation, included 3 of the deaths within the facility as part of the mortality death review, the death on May 8th, May 25th, and July 24th. So those were the ones that were completed and publicly issued.
Okay, so we still don't have September 13th, December 7th, December 21st. That's Zachary Somm, Gerald Adams, and Richard Schuba. Okay, and we won't know, only the county manager's office would know if they have been completed. And it could just be bottlenecked there, is what you're thinking is maybe? Okay, but thank you very much. That's very helpful to know that that's where it stopped. Okay, thank you so much, Judge.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Agenda.
New business, or old business. I know there's a report on here that Judge Lazara used to give, and I do believe that a written report was generated. Maybe Councilwoman Hallam would do the pleasure of giving us that report. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Okay, so the status of the jail population as of 4:30 p.m. on January 2nd, 2024 was as followed. 1,568 people were in the ACJ and 110 people were in alternative housing facilities, excluding any people with holds by the federal government. Note that people in the jail can be held for multiple reasons, such as probation and parole detainers, other county holds, or sentences. 7%, or 110, people in the jail itself are serving a county sentence as the result of a new conviction. 24%, 26 of those 110, in alternative housing are serving a county sentence. 20%, or 319, of the people in the jail itself had a hold from an external jurisdiction, including other counties or the state. No individuals in alternative housing have a hold from another jurisdiction. 40%, or 635 people in the jail itself, were detained by Allegheny County Adult Probation. These individuals were detained for violating probation on a crime for which they had previously been convicted. 24%, or 26 of 110 people in alternative housing, were detained by Allegheny County Adult Probation. 22 individuals in the jail itself have been court-ordered to be seen by the Behavioral Assessment Unit for evaluations, reevaluations, and pending commitment hearings to Torrance State Hospital. 17 are male and 5 are female. These individuals seen by the Behavioral Assessment Unit were seen in the jail itself and not alternative housing. 39 individuals in the jail are committed to Torrance State Hospital and awaiting admission. Additionally, 26 individuals currently at Torrance are wards of the Allegheny County Jail. No individuals in alternative housing are awaiting Torrance State Hospital commitments. 29%, or 452 people in the jail itself, were held pretrial only, meaning that they had no other reason, such as external holds or detainers, keeping them in the jail. 27%, 30 of 110 people in alternative housing, were held pretrial only. 153 individuals, approximately 10% of the jail population, are currently being held in the Allegheny County Jail pre-trial only on monetary bonds. 5 individuals in alternative housing are held pre-trial only on monetary bonds. Oh, hi, Marion, sorry. All pre-trial monetary bond cases are reviewed for possible bail modification. The Allegheny County Jail population, excluding federal holds, but including alternative housing, no, this is about March 2020. So that's all. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. New business.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No, and I want to thank the judge, and we said we were going to do this at last month's meeting, but we pushed it to now, and I know we've been calling for it. I know Councilwoman has for a number of years, so I'm going to make a motion to establish a subcommittee on bylaws and rules that we can hopefully have completed in the first quarter of this year. So that's my motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay. So do we have any volunteers for the subcommittee? Councilwoman Hallam.
Thank you, Judge.
I think we said Councilwoman, myself, County Executive, and
Judge Bigley.
Judge, yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, but I think that with so many new people on the board, it would really behoove us to have some sort of work session meeting, because I think the new people all have a lot of questions and need to learn a lot of things. Mr. Bacharach, does that have to be advertised? And I'm sorry to call upon you, but I know you know the Sunshine Act like the back of your hand.
It's going to be agency business discussed.
So a work session.
You can have a,
What if it's for informational purposes only?
for just informational purposes, yeah.
We're not going to take any action. Yeah, so that's okay?
It's just
All right.
things like who needs to be on different emails, I think, things of that nature, who's getting notice of what.
And Judge, while we're on that, we do have a subcommittee, so we'll probably have to reappoint people to that. We can talk about that at next month's meeting. The IIWF.
Subcommittee of what?
There's a couple subcommittees.
We have an incarcerated individual welfare fund subcommittee. We have a suicide prevention subcommittee. Is there another one?
Those are the
Didn't
new
we
one
create a
just-
book?
The
A
new
book?
one we just established now, but just so we're aware, we'll have to fill those with people.
Okay,
too.
we need to talk about a lot of things, so I'm going to suggest that I will initiate an email with some proposed dates, just for us to have a work session before the next meeting, and hopefully everybody will respond and we can get something together.
But I did want to mention, and I don't know if I need to mention publicly, but I don't have a problem mentioning it publicly, that preliminarily, at least until we get together, is that whenever anything happens, and we had talked about this, specifically related to any death in the jail, that be reported to every member of the board immediately. Not to one individual person on the board, but to every member of the board. So if that's communicated, Warden, that not be reported just to one person, but that.
Because I know I got an email, I'm requesting that the email be sent to the whole board in the future.
I don't know, it's not that there was anything wrong with it. I think it was just in the past, it was a practice of sending it to like one or two people or to someone. But I think it should be that it goes to everybody on the board.
Yeah, we're just changing the protocol.
Yeah. So, well, thank you.
Mary, do you like that?
I agree with you too. I agree with everything, But I think that this is, we all want the information at the same time, as opposed to some people learning it from a different source.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yeah.
You do.
Thank
Motion
you.
to adjourn.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
This is a preliminary packet.